The wind sang across the wide plains of Arizona, rolling dust over miles of golden grass that shimmered beneath a bleeding sunset. The old ranch sat on a lonely rise, its wooden boards weathered by storms and time. Inside, one man lived, Ethan Cole, a rancher who had forgotten the sound of laughter and the warmth of company. For 7 long years, he'd worked this land alone, speaking more to his horses than to people. His nearest neighbor was a day's ride away, and he preferred it that way. The world outside had betrayed him long ago. His wife taken by fever, his brothers gone to war, and his friends scattered by greed. Solitude was safer. That night, the horizon burned orange as the sun fell, and Ethan leaned on his porch rail with a cup of black coffee in hand. Coyotes called in the distance. It was the kind of evening where silence weighed, heavy enough to hear your own heartbeat. But something in that silence shifted, a faint rhythm like footsteps. Not one, many. Ethan squinted toward the north ridge. Dust was moving, and not from wind but from people. He set his coffee down and reached for his rifle hanging by the door. Out here, uninvited visitors rarely brought good news. He watched as the shapes grew clearer, figures on foot, moving slow, carrying burdens. 10 of them. As they drew near, he saw what the moonlight revealed. Apaches. They stopped at the edge of his property, silent as ghosts. Ethan's jaw tightened. In his younger years, he'd fought against Apaches during the border skirmishes. He'd lost a friend then, but tonight they looked nothing like warriors, more like survivors. Their clothes were torn, faces smudged with dust, and one man leaned heavily on another, wounded. Among them were 2 young boys and a woman clutching a baby wrapped in faded cloth. The tallest among them, an elder with long gray braids, stepped forward. "We seek shelter," he said in broken English. "We will not stay long. Storm comes." Ethan glanced toward the horizon. Sure enough, thunder rolled low in the distance, and a wall of black clouds crept over the mountains. He lowered his rifle slightly but didn't put it down. "You picked a strange place to ask for help," he said. The elder nodded once. No place left to go. His words were heavy, final. Ethan hesitated. Years of distrust clawed at his gut. These were Apaches, the same people settlers blamed for raids, theft, and worse. But as lightning cracked the sky, his gaze caught the woman holding her child close, her lips trembling with exhaustion. Something inside him softened. He wasn't the same man who'd fought wars. He was just a lonely soul with a roof and fire to spare. "Fine," he muttered. "You can come in. But no trouble." The elder bowed his head slightly. "We bring none." Ethan opened the door wide. "Then get in before the storm eats us all." They filed inside quietly, dripping with rain as the storm broke open behind them. Thunder roared across the plains, shaking the windows. Ethan stoked the fire in the hearth, its glow flickering against faces lined with fatigue. The air filled with the smell of wet leather and earth. The woman with the baby sat near the fire, whispering softly in her native tongue. The 2 boys huddled close to her. Ethan poured water into a tin cup and handed it to the elder. "You said you won't stay long," he said, keeping his tone even. "What are you running from?" The old man sipped the water before answering. "Soldiers. They burned our camp 2 days ago. Said we crossed land, not ours. We had no fight left." He looked at Ethan with tired eyes. "We walk until legs fail." Ethan's jaw clenched. He had seen soldiers do terrible things in the name of peace. But hearing it from the mouths of the broken hit different. "You'll rest here tonight," he said quietly. "Tomorrow we'll figure out what comes next." The elder gave a slow nod. "You have a kind heart, white man." "Don't mistake it for weakness," Ethan replied, though there was no edge in his voice. As the rain hammered the roof, Ethan found himself watching the group in silence. The youngest boy caught his eye, maybe 12, but with eyes that had already seen too much. The boy noticed Ethan's gaze and shyly offered a half-smile. Ethan looked away, uneasy. He wasn't used to kindness. Hours passed. The storm raged outside while the fire burned low. Ethan leaned back in his chair, listening to the quiet breathing of those who had fallen asleep on his floor. The elder remained awake, sitting cross-legged near the hearth. "You live alone long time," the old man said suddenly. Ethan looked up. "That obvious, huh?" The elder smiled faintly. "Your eyes tell stories." "Empty ones." Ethan chuckled under his breath. "Maybe I like it that way." "No man truly likes emptiness," the elder said. "It is only what he chooses when he fears loss." The words sank deep into Ethan's chest like a stone. He had no answer for them. When dawn broke, the rain had stopped, leaving the land washed clean. Mist curled over the fields. Ethan stepped outside, the cold morning air biting his skin. The Apaches were already awake, gathering their few belongings. The elder approached him, bowing his head in gratitude. "We go now," he said. "You saved us from storm. The Great Spirit will not forget." Ethan nodded. "There's a river 5 miles west. You'll find good shelter near the cliffs." The old man turned to leave, but then paused. "We will not forget you, Ethan Cole." "How do you know my name?" Ethan asked. The elder's eyes glimmered with quiet mystery. "You wrote it on the gate long ago." Ethan blinked. He hadn't realized anyone would ever notice the small carved letters on the wooden post, a name half buried by dust and time. He watched as the group walked away, their silhouettes fading into the morning haze. He stood there for a long while, the wind brushing past him, carrying the faint echo of their footsteps. For the first time in years, the ranch didn't feel so empty. He thought of the boy's smile, the woman's tired eyes, and the elder's words. Maybe, just maybe, solitude wasn't strength after all. As the sun climbed higher, Ethan turned back toward his cabin. He poured himself another cup of coffee. Staring at the empty chairs around his table, something stirred inside him, and a feeling he hadn't known in years. Hope. And though he didn't know it yet, that night was only the beginning. Because before the week was over, the Apaches would return, and this time not just seeking shelter, but bringing a message that would change Ethan Cole's life forever. The chief's promise. 3 days had passed since the storm, and Ethan Cole had returned to his quiet routine. The ranch felt heavier now, the silence, almost too sharp after hearing the soft whispers and fire crackle shared with those 10 weary souls. He tried to push the memories aside, telling himself they were just wanderers passing through. But deep down, he knew something had shifted inside him that night. For years, he'd convinced himself he preferred solitude. Yet now, as he rode the fence line under a pale sky, he realized solitude no longer felt like peace. It felt like absence. The sun had just started dipping when he noticed something unusual in a line of dust trailing from the west. Just like before, he slowed his horse, squinting against the light. Figures again. 10 of them. The same shapes. His chest tightened. They came back. When they reached his gate, he saw their faces. The same Apaches, but not the same as before. The men looked resolute, the women less fearful. And this time, they were not empty-handed. The elder led the group, walking beside a young woman who carried a wrapped bundle. Not a baby this time, but something longer, heavier. Ethan stepped off his porch as they approached. "Didn't think I'd see you again," he said, trying to keep his tone even. The elder smiled faintly. "The Great Spirit guides paths that cross for a reason." Ethan folded his arms. "You said you were heading west. Why come back here?" The elder motioned for the young woman to step forward. She lowered the bundle she carried and carefully unwrapped it. Inside was a finely crafted rifle. Not just any weapon, but an ornate Winchester, decorated with brass inlays and a carved stock bearing tribal markings. Ethan's breath caught. "This," the elder said, "belonged to our chief. He was killed by soldiers 2 nights after we left you. Before he died, he made us promise to find the white rancher who showed mercy to our people. He said you would need this." Ethan frowned. "Need it for what?" The old man's gaze was steady. "The soldiers who burned our camp are coming. They ride toward this valley now. They believe we hide here." A chill ran through Ethan's spine. "You led them here?" "No," the elder said calmly. "They follow their own fear. But when they come, they will not ask questions." Ethan looked toward the horizon. He knew the military patrols, reckless young men eager for medals, trained to see any Apache as an enemy. "How many?" he asked. 10, maybe 12, said one of the younger warriors. "They have horses, rifles, and hate in their hearts." Ethan's jaw clenched. He could have told them to leave, to take their fight somewhere else. But when he looked at the tired faces before him, at the woman clutching her child again, he knew he couldn't. The memory of his wife's fever and the helplessness he'd felt returned like a ghost. He had once vowed never to stand by and do nothing again. "Then we'll stand together," he said finally. "If they come, they'll find more than they bargained for." The elder placed a hand on his shoulder. "You honor your spirit today, Ethan Cole." By nightfall, the ranch became a fortress. The Apache men took positions along the fence line, setting up makeshift barricades with logs and hay bales. Ethan checked every rifle he owned and handed out what ammunition he could spare. The women gathered the children inside the cabin, their faces pale but determined. As the firelight flickered, Ethan sat on the porch, loading his old Colt revolver. The elder joined him, watching the stars appear one by one. "You fight like one who has lost much," he said quietly. Ethan nodded, lost enough to know that sometimes fighting is all that's left. The elder looked toward the horizon. "Our chief said you carried a heavy past. Perhaps this night will free you from it." Before Ethan could answer, a distant echo broke the calm, the thunder of hooves. The riders were coming. They came fast, torches blazing against the dark prairie, 12 men in uniform, their horses snorting and wild. Ethan could hear their laughter, their shouted orders. "Fan out," one of them barked. "Smoke them out if they're here." Ethan raised the Winchester, the chief's rifle, and took aim from behind a post. The elder gave a silent nod. When the first soldier crossed the fence line, Ethan fired. The shot cracked the night open. The man fell, his torch tumbling into the dry grass. Chaos erupted. Gunfire echoed through the valley, sparks flying in the darkness. The Apaches moved with precision and silence, using the land like an old friend. Ethan covered their flank, firing again and again, the recoil shaking his shoulder. The soldiers fired wildly in return, blinded by their own flames. One of the young warriors fell beside the barn, crying out. Ethan didn't think. He ran through the smoke, dragging him to cover. The elder's voice called out prayers in Apache, words that rose and fell like wind over stone. Minutes felt like hours. When the last echo of gunfire faded, the only sound left was the crackle of smoldering hay and the rasp of heavy breathing. The soldiers were gone, some fled, some lay still. Ethan leaned against a post, chest heaving, sweat and ash clinging to his skin. Around him, the Apaches stood silent, the flickering firelight, painting their faces golden red. The battle was over. The elder approached, placing a hand on Ethan's arm. "You fought as one of us tonight." Ethan looked at the rifle in his hands, its brass gleaming faintly. "I didn't do it for glory," he said. "I did it because no one deserves to be hunted for just existing." The old man smiled, a deep warmth in his tired eyes. "And that is why the chief trusted you even in death." Morning broke slow and gentle. Smoke drifted over the ranch, but the land still stood. The surviving Apaches buried their fallen near the river, marking the graves with stones. When the sun rose high, they gathered their things once more. The elder faced Ethan. "We go now, to the mountains where no soldiers ride. But know this, Ethan Cole, our people will remember you. When the stories are told by firelight, your name will walk among us." Ethan tried to find words but couldn't. He only nodded, eyes glistening with the ache of farewell. The Apaches walked away as quietly as they had arrived, disappearing into the horizon like ghosts returning to the wind. Ethan stood on his porch for a long time after they were gone, the chief's rifle still in his hands. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the ridge, he carved a new line beneath his name on the gate. "Shelter given, debt paid in honor." He smiled faintly, the weight in his chest easing for the first time in years. He wasn't just a man living alone anymore. He was part of a story, one written not in ink, but in courage, compassion, and firelight. If this story touched your heart, if Ethan Cole's courage and the Apaches' gratitude reminded you that kindness still matters in a hard world, then don't just scroll away. Hit that subscribe button, leave a comment about your favorite moment, and share this story so others can feel its power too. Every like, comment, and subscription helps us bring more emotional Western tales to life, stories of mercy, courage, and redemption on the wild frontier.